Welcome back to Good News, Bad News, the Libertarian Christian Roundtable, where we discuss the most recent events that have affected your life, maybe not affected your life, directly, but are like, catching your attention on social media and in the news. And we have Carrie, Norman, Matthew, and myself here ready to talk about things. And I think the theme of the day or the theme of the week or month, maybe year, I don't know, is outrage. Right now, the Texas governor, like a week ago, said that no one is allowed to wear a mask anymore and that everybody has to huddle and get close to each other when they go out in public.
I can't believe you would say such a thing.
It's for the children. It's for the children. I mean, children need hugs from their grandparents.
Yeah, they do. Right.
Obviously, I said that wrong.
Or else little Timmy's going to die. So.
Is that not what the governor said? I mean, if you heard people from New York and from Pennsylvania, friends of mine, who are upset with this absurd, stupid thing that the governor has done, and not only him, other governors.
Not only has he banned masks, but if you're caught wearing one, the police will come and rip it off your face and give you $200. It's just terrible.
My favorite is the adaptation of the "come and take it" flag with the mask on it.
I have to say I was very impressed with that, to be quite honest. That
come
was
and take it. Okay.
That was good. That was a nice subversive move by people who don't like come and take
nice though that a state decides to actually follow the science and let people, kind of run their own lives instead of have the dictates come down from on high. I mean, like there are reasons to wear a mask and there are reasons not to. Okay, like let's just face it, and that's the reality now. Face it. Face it.
You can't face it.
We can't face it.
Can't.
This is gonna get bad real fast.
See that pun anymore? Can
you? No. We can.
Anyway.
We can stretch that one around our ears for at least a little while longer, right?
Well, Texas isn't the only one that's reopening, though, because there are a number of other states. Actually, I just left a state that has been remaining open for this whole time.
And I showed up there right after you did.
You did?
Yeah.
Why didn't we hang out?
You didn't see me wave at you from the other side of the Orlando tram?
The first and last ride of Orlando?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So anyway, the outrage that we see has been essentially that everybody on the outside just thinks not only is this stupid, but it's like they think the people in the state are stupid. It's like they can't. And not only that, let's just assume that for the sake of their argument that everybody in Texas is just going to do whatever they like. They're just going to listen to their governor and do whatever they want or whatever. And all this blame is just on like the governor or whatever. Like, okay, fine. But like, it doesn't mean that, like, say the city of Dallas might not still have an edict that everybody in Dallas should need to wear a mask. Businesses
should
require
local.
It, right? Like from their own terms, it basically just means that the governor has said this is not my jurisdiction anymore. Right. I've released you, but that doesn't mean that other places aren't going to be like, hey, no, I don't need you to wear a mask.
And it doesn't mean that people. It's not an order not to wear a mask. It's an order to make your own decision now. Yeah. Like it's time.
Yeah.
So. It baffles me. I'm sorry, Carrie, but you go ahead and then I'll.
Well, I was just going to say that's how it is in Georgia. Like there's no mandates or fines in Georgia. But individual stores, certain municipalities have made it a requirement, like on certain bits of property, or, Target is still, requiring masks when you go in. But nobody's flipping out about it. Nobody's,
because the less political you make it, the easier it is to operate.
Yeah.
Come on.
The other thing that I've noticed, and Matthew, I'm sure you've noticed this in our area, the further away from the cities we get, the more rural it is.
Yeah.
And in our case, the more Amish or like the stores that are run or operated by Amish, they don't enforce the masks as much. And that's been this way the entire time, even with pretty strict mask mandates in our state. And also, there are people that I know who say, you know what? I'm just not going to go to those businesses if they don't take this seriously. Okay. And those people are fine with that. And then there's the people who are like, oh, they don't enforce the mask rule. Sometimes I forget, and I don't care that they make me, wear one to my chair 5 feet away from the entrance of this restaurant with no one in between or near us.
Yeah.
The market decides, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that just seems to be a much better way of doing things. And I wish I brought up the chart. Matt, you're always prepared for these things when you talk about your topic, but basically Florida and California have had roughly the same curve the entire time.
Yep.
Drastically different outcomes. Can we now admit that we, at least in retrospect, reluctantly admit that lockdowns don't work? Like look,
absolutely.
11 months ago,
especially for a
what we were
virus.
trying out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. And 3 weeks and 4 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
If
you did talk in our area, if you talk to Levi Stoltzfus and said, hey, why aren't you wearing a mask? You're going to kill grandma. He's going to say, oh yeah, grandma's back at home. She's doing great. If you want to come back and take a look at her, she's wonderful. But actually, I've had a theory about it through the whole time.
Accent,
I thought it was fantastic. My gardener's Amish. I actually have a long thesis on this, but just the idea of an authority complex or an appeal to authority or an authority bias that people who are very state-centric, or should I say state supremacists, have a desire to be listened to whoever the authority is. And if the authority is saying, it's no longer necessary, they hear, we're going to rip it off your face even if you show up. And then all of a sudden they become the victims. So now we're just flip-flopping who the victims are and flip-flopping who the real demonstrably fascists are. And it's just, we have lost all sense of any kind of subtlety or at least relationship norms. And it's unfortunately to our detriment. And I blame Norman.
Oh, dum, 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 dum.
And it should probably be said that it's not like we're in any way praising the governor of Texas. He created the mask mandate in the first place.
Sure.
And also the timing is a little suspicious, after, Mother Nature gave Texas the cold shoulder recently. So, and he bungled that, he wasn't a very energetic.
I mean, it was very astute of people to say, yeah, great for Abbott, but he's still implemented those mandates. They still happened. If you are considering him to be the free state advocate that you think he is, then he wouldn't have done it in the first place.
Yep.
So
yeah, for sure. So that's the first thing that we're all outraged about. Well, not us anyway, but we are just baffled that people are outraged that other people can't make decisions on their own.
It's also, let's just point this out. Like, some of these folks would be just happy if Texas just fell off the face of the planet.
That's
and
true.
I find some of the rhetoric around this sort of stuff like really, really stupid and just insulting.
I sometimes feel that way about California.
No, I don't feel that way about California at all. I'd miss so much, but it's
would
quite
still import their
entertaining.
goods.
Yeah. Well, but I guess it's just. What really goes to show is just how much division there is in a way that I mean, I'm a libertarian, obviously, but I also have I want to be in relationships with people who are different from me, and I don't want to eliminate those relationships. And yet it seems like that these division points are just fast becoming just absolutely
bonkers.
Mammoth.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's getting really absurd.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads to, absurdism is on some level what we're going toward with this next topic that we're going to end up talking about.
There's a lot of absurdity and a little bit of confusion over what actually happened.
Yeah.
So I could not tell it right. So Carrie, I will let you demonstrate for us, explicate for us what happened.
It was subtle.
Well, basically now I own contraband. This is
oh no,
what's it called? And to think I saw it on Mulberry Street. By Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss got
one of these days. Somebody's going to give you a Bitcoin for that.
Oh
God, I hope so.
Now you got me going.
It's for sale. Yeah. So apparently, what happened was the publishers, or no, the Dr. Seuss estate, I think, was the one who decided they were going to stop publishing 6 of their of the books that Dr. Seuss had created. And of course, Dr. Seuss is best known for all of his children's books and his witty, poetic type writing and his wonderful artistry. But Dr. Seuss had some unapproved opinions, which he later came to regret. But one of them was, he was sort of racist against Asian people. And so this book talks about, or has a tiny little picture, which I'm not going to try and open up the book, but basically it's a picture in a corner of an Asian person, a generic Asian person. And he says something about a China man running with sticks, right? Which is the chapsticks, which is overly stereotypical, obviously. However, his stepdaughter came out and said, hey, maybe we're overblowing this a little bit too much. He did come to regret his position, on things like Japanese internment. Maybe we should just put, a disclaimer at the front. I think somebody else has suggested that it get, re-illustrated. We can re-illustrate the book and take that part out. My personal opinion is that it's a conversation starter. You can actually use it to talk to your kids about some of the bad things that happened in our history. Why can't we talk about, the fact that FDR actually interred Japanese Americans during World War II, and why that happened. So at any rate, that's the next big outrage is, banning children's books.
Yeah, and I have to say, as stereotypes go, it was actually rather mild, if you ask me. And it really wasn't, I don't think, disparaging, but it is how a great way to say these are the ways that people saw each other in the past and what stereotypes actually can do to people, and why it's something that we don't necessarily want to do going forward. But now we can't have that conversation. And now we're just going to end up, and I think here is the issue with this. People believe that if we get rid of this, our better natures will prevail and we won't do it ever again. Unfortunately, as we all know, at least in this group, what tends to end up happening is that our sin natures take over and then we go and do it more. So it's a danger.
Well,
these are the same people who complain about us repeating history. Because we don't pay attention and we don't analyze and we don't think about how do we not repeat history.
Doug.
Well, it's like, well, hang on. If I don't even know that was part of history, that even happened, how am I supposed to avoid it? Yeah. Like the conversation starter piece, or re-illustrating it and then, making a note of it in the back of the book for parents. The copy you had when you were growing up would have featured this on page 37. But we changed that because of perceptions and we were wrong, or whatever you need to say. I mean, I'd be way more for that than
it's gonna be real fun when they come from Mark Twain.
Oh man,
well, they already have.
Did they? Did I miss that part?
Well, that's been kind of like all sporadically all over the United States since like the 90s. They've been taking out of like library, like
how
local
many
librarians
did I
do
miss?
That. I mean, well, no, but it was like a local librarian did it. And it made
apparently
news there, and so of course that outraged the right, because how dare we just take out books? But you know what? Again, this was their choice to do this, so this isn't quite the state banning books, but it's getting awfully close to the left. Almost like I can easily see the path where the left wants the state to start doing this as sort of just their regular MO in filtering.
Well, and
especially as we go digital.
The point is that I mean, we have, or at least we used to have, maybe we're going to ban the banned books list. Every year, libraries celebrate Banned Books Week to talk about which books have been banned, because usually they're banned because it talks about something that needs to be talked about. Right. So racism certainly falls under that category. We need to talk about it. My daughter had her 14th birthday last week, and she wanted to go enjoy Japanese ramen, like real Japanese ramen. And so we went to a restaurant, and we had a conversation about not just Japanese ramen, but how Asian cuisine in America started out very generic because of racism in America, because of the way Americans perceived anybody who was Asian. And so we got to have that conversation, and we got
because our palates were terrible.
that too. But at any rate,
bland taste.
I told them,
according to Captain America, they boiled everything back then.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
although you boil ramen. So anyway,
but we wouldn't have been able to have this conversation if it wasn't for the fact that my kids are aware of, Dr. Seuss, and that this thing exists. We have this book. Why is this going on, Mom? Like, it's a conversation starter, and that's what it should be. Yeah. We should say, look, there are things in our history that we're not proud of, and that's true for individuals just as much as cultures. And we should be able to correct our mistakes. The Dr. Seuss certainly did. According to his stepdaughter, he repented of his position, but nobody's talking about that, by the way.
We can't have that. We can't have repentance and forgiveness.
Right. So I think shutting down the conversation is just ridiculous. We should have the conversation so that we don't repeat history.
Yep.
2 points before we move off of this subject. One, I believe that the American left is becoming the new pearl clutching Victorians that want to ban all the things and make all the things and get scared at any slight of anything else. So it's just really kind of funny that the more left they go, the more conservative they become, and it's just kind of
crazy.
But also, I have to say, let's pat at least the Christian Bible publishers on the back a little bit, because I just wanted to pull this out. Because in the back of the book of Mark, you're going to usually read in some places that says the earliest manuscripts and some other ancient witnesses do not have Mark 16, 9 through 20, but they still put it in anyway so that you can come up to your own conclusions. And so I just want to say we're doing it right and the locusts are doing it wrong.
Wow. Can we
That was perfect.
That's pretty fantastic. Can we also point out though, that just like
from here,
while this is something that seems to be endemic of the left right now, as in currently, that, like, can we remember for a second too that in the 90s especially there was definitely a move from the right to also ban stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. So I think this is interesting to remember. It was something that my wife and I were talking about in the last couple of days, that this is not what we shouldn't do is attribute it solely to the political philosophy itself as being the reason that this is happening. But this is rather a function of the way human behavior takes turns for the worse. And so this is not like a leftism problem qua leftism in the same way that like socialism is just, or something like that, but rather this is something endemic to the human condition, and that we should be aware of it and strike it down wherever it comes up.
Right.
And beautifully stated, Norman. That's wonderful. No,
you're very welcome.
Totally agree.
That's a great way to pin that, because you're absolutely right.
Free Thoughts and Free Minds is the mantra of Reason, the magazine. And I really like that. Even if I disagree with Reason on a whole lot of stuff at times, I still think that they're doing a great job of it. And, I think that's the way we should be. We, if we as Christians think that we're, on the side of truth in the long run, then we have no fear of incorrect ideas. Yeah. What may, we can destroy it all.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with what you just said. The one thing that I would note though, that it doesn't quite feel the same, because it seemed like in the 80s and the 90s, when it was all about boycotting Disney and boycotting stuff, it was basically saying, well, they're not going to get the money of Christians if they're not going to adhere to at least something similar to our values.
Well, imagine what they would have done if they had social media at the time.
Well, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. But maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't think I would fear then what I do now, which is as soon as there's state power involved, then it's all downhill. Like the left is way more into book burning than they are the book boycotting.
I'm not sure I totally agree with that.
No,
but that's okay. I think it's debatable. Like for one thing, there is, you might be able to say they're into book burning now, but there's no way they could even accomplish it. Like, what are they going to do?
Fair.
Yeah.
Like everything's digital.
But they're the ones making the arguments that this should just not be. They're not making the arguments that
bring it.
They're not making an argument to their own constituency.
They can't eliminate Bitcoin. They won't be able to eliminate a book.
Well, I think the difference between the 1990s and now is that in the 1990s there were probably fewer people who really cared.
That's true. I mean, but again, is that then a function of the political situation in which we're in? That's very much oriented around the left, or is it actually just it's
yeah, I think it's a function of polarization. The other difference is that we are more polarized now than we were in the 1990s. And so where, the left and the right care only by virtue of the fact that they don't want to be what the other one is. Right. And so that's driving it to a great deal. But the fundamental principle behind both movements is the same, which is there are certain things we don't want in our culture. And these people think that authoritarianism will solve the problem. And of course, libertarians are saying, no, it's not going to solve the problem. In fact, it will make it worse because you will inevitably repeat history.
When did conservatives in the 90s actually call for censorship and banning of the books from like a government level? It was all about, we're not giving them our money. We're not traveling to Disney. We're not buying Disney movies or going to Disney movies at theaters.
There were certainly movements to take stuff out of libraries.
Well, wasn't
Magic the Gathering was a big thing.
Wasn't the whole movie and television rating system about protecting the children and keeping them from seeing things and ideas that parents didn't want them to see?
That was before my
time. Can we just say inevitably that has become an abject failure, because once it comes to TVMA, you're like, ooh.
I know.
There's a lot of interesting stories around that. My favorite one is around Batman, the animated series from the 90s. But we're getting really far afield.
Wow,
but
way afield. Yeah, I maybe I'll just beg to differ on this one. I don't think it feels the same, although there are a lot of similarities. I totally agree. And your analysis of it, Norman, was definitely right. It just didn't seem to me like it was much of a threat in the 90s, whereas now you have the left wanting more power. They're wanting governors to tell people when they can take off their mask. They're going to want people to decide whether their kids can read or watch or do whatever it is, and they won't stop until other people are making the decisions they think they should be making.
And they believe they can do that because, frankly, they're the ability of certain amplification of voices via social media and the ability of for those things to catch on and go viral. I mean, we didn't even have things like virality in the same way in the 90s.
Yeah.
Or the 80s for that matter.
I just want to give Doug a lot of credit because he's somebody on the internet who just said, I may be wrong. And that's very good. Doug.
And I also usually don't say that a lot.
That's it.
I know, I'm just saying,
can we just clip that for the future?
Auto-tune it.
Very humble.
Auto-tune it.
I may be wrong.
Auto-tune the Doug.
Yeah.
We can meme it. Can we meme it?
All right. So there's no better way to transition to the next topic by saying that somebody on the internet should say they were wrong. Than to talk about how the media was wrong, apparently, according to Matthew Bellis, who was there, about the golden statue of Donald Trump wearing don't know what. Matt, go ahead and pull it up. You can, yes.
Well, very interesting. Down in Orlando, Florida, over the past couple of weeks, there was a Trump statue made of gold holding a We the People and a wand right there. I believe that's a wand. I believe that's what it is.
What's the wand for? What is the wand? Is it
magic,
a palm tree, a star?
Magic.
What's on the top
It's
of
the
it?
wand of trolling.
Well, and then there's
okay.
these
Plus
clearly American not brief boxers, which is boxers with a Trump tie. You know, this is actually a Washington Post article, the real message behind that Trump golden statue. Let me just tell you what the real message was, because frankly, I was there. And I have to tell you,
did you touch
it was
the
a
statue?
complete success in terms of what the media has actually done, because this was a complete troll on the media. I mean, please, honestly, tell me. I know how it looks. I know that looks like that to some people. And honestly,
that was the point, right?
That was the point. That was the whole idea, to say, oh, don't we supposedly worship this thing? And it was kind of a big joke. And the people that were there definitely got the joke. Because look at this. This doesn't necessarily look like a golden statue that you would worship. This isn't Mao Zedong sitting in a chair 30 feet in the air and you're supposed to fear him. This looks like Big Boy. This looks like those old holding up a big tray of burgers, yet he has a wand and American shorts. I mean, it's funny, it's poking fun at the whole thing, and it's not really trying to worship a golden statue. It's to create a golden statue to ironically troll the media, which, you know, is that something Christians should do? I mean, the moment you start pounding metal into a figure, into a form, you start to wonder, man, maybe I shouldn't do this, because, you know, there's
it was done by machine, though.
Maybe I shouldn't do this. That's like...
yeah. But
okay,
overall,
Aaron,
it's not what the media was purporting
Aaron.
it was to be. So
that's it. That's kind of hilarious to observe.
You were gone for 40 days.
What were we supposed to do?
I think it's perfect. The Republican God is made of fool's gold, and the Democratic God is made of fiat.
Oh,
very good, very good. Bring that home.
Wow.
I honestly, I would love to see what the libertarian God is, but it's really going to be hard to pound out Bitcoin and turn it into.
Oh,
anyway.
Where's our matrix?
He's still my beating heart.
So
Matt, who actually put it up?
It was a group. I can't remember exactly their name. It was. Oh yes. No, it's not here. No, never mind.
Oh yeah.
But it was a group that actually bought a space within the exposition area of the of CPAC. It wasn't the American Conservative Union or CPAC themselves that put it up, even though they really tried to tie this to that. It wasn't that at all. There are a lot of people who have some strange and interesting ideas that come out to CPAC and ACU, and you look at them and you're kind of like, why are you here? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know why they let me in every single year. It's just kind of fun. I'm supposed to be there, and I actually spoke on a panel there about healthcare. So, but it was an interesting time. I saw this initially, was like, whoa, wait a second. But then after I realized that, oh, that's the reaction you're supposed to have, because it's a joke. So anyway.
You have to wonder, like, if some of those other like paintings that we see and get promulgated on the net, which look like really weird, you know, almost, you know, very idolatrous type imagery at times with Trump or Bush and Jesus, or various Democrats and demons or whatnot. Are they trolling us too? Well, and you kind of have to wonder sometimes, because they look so unbelievable. It just doesn't make sense.
You mean like the marble busts behind me in my picture here?
Yeah.
Like all the philosophers behind me.
Well, I think that's
those are a little different.
Supposed to evoke, like, this is solid and real. This person, look at them, upon them, and love them.
Look upon Plato and think that he has a different form somewhere else.
Yeah.
Does he think so?
Yeah.
But
that's a very inside philosophy joke, guys. Just
no, I know.
Go read some Plato.
Yeah. But the issue, though, I think this really does bring up, and something that libertarian Christians should be talking about, is the ideologies of these political movements and the idols that they set up, being the politicians, or at least even the policies by which they go after. You see this almost every year. Whenever there's a Democrat president, there's inevitably going to be a picture of them on the cover of Time magazine, looking pristine, well lit, with a big halo around behind them. and to say this is your new political god, and it's disgusting. And you look at it and you just think, there's no wonder why we have so many examples in the Bible about idolatry and how Israel kept failing at this over and over again, because they were human and we're human and we fail at this over and over again as well. And so let the golden statue of Trump be a troll warning to you. It's best just to leave the gold in your pocket and don't make it into an idol.
Did you guys hear about the voters' remorse that the pro-lifers for Biden recently experienced?
I did.
Yes.
I saw the letter.
Yeah. Basically, they're upset because the Biden administration stopped talking to them after they got their votes. It happened to BLM too, by the way.
Shocker.
So now pro-lifers for Biden are trying to get him to what is it? It has to do with the Hyde Amendment. Get him to keep using the Hyde Amendment. They're very upset with him for actually being the pro-abortion candidate that he said he was.
The most surprising of that is Biden. I know.
Imagine being surprised that a president didn't keep his promise.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, seriously.
Well, you have two groups here. Strangely enough, pro-lifers and BLM both complained that the Biden administration stopped talking to them as soon as he got elected. It's like, really? Shocker.
He's just busy. He's just too busy signing executive orders.
Oh my gosh.
Did he stop talking to them because he no longer wanted to talk to them, or because of his increasing dementia he was incapable of?
Well, I mean, it does take him a really long time to sign his name. He's got to remember.
What are we
guys,
doing
come on.
No,
I'm sorry. I don't believe that. It's so fun.
We would be making fun of any president who's 304 years old. So
that's going to be the next inaugural address. When 304 years old you look.
Look as good you will not.
We're going to end this episode before it gets really, before we're all,
messed up.
I don't have a joke.
Canceled.
We're gonna get canceled.
We're gonna cancel ourselves here. We're gonna recall.
Can we just have like a big a big cancel sticker come out at the end, like right
cancel
right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, have it say Chunk Unger and cancel. Thanks, Chuck.
Make it happen.
If you haven't tuned out,